And we're back for some Combat Corner. Max is going to break down the upcoming UFC fight night this weekend. Really looking forward to that. Max, take it away.
Yeah, you are, because we got Dominick Reyes versus Jiří Procházka. And this fight, it really feels like there's a lot of unknowns in both fighters' trajectories right now. There's Jiří Procházka, a very hyped fighter who has had one fight in the UFC that doubled or tripled his stock value, knocking out Volkan Oezdemir in the second round. And Dominick Reyes, really hard to know what to make of him right now. Almost everyone thinks he won 3 rounds against John Jones in his title shot, and he was a pretty heavy favorite to take it against Jan Blachowicz, who just absolutely shut him down and knocked him out also in the second round. So we've got one fighter on the rise coming off a second round knockout win, and one fighter on a bit of a downswing coming off of a second round knockout loss. That's kind of where the parallels end between these two, other than their frames. But I'm really not entirely sure what to make of the potential and hype of where both fighters are. I never really saw it with Dominick Reyes leading up to his title shot against John Jones. Other than the win against OSP, I thought he did exactly what he was supposed to do against a middleweight in Chris Weidman, and I thought he lost the fight to Volkan Oezdemir. And then I was really impressed by the 3 rounds he put out against John Jones, but what won him those rounds were his volume and pace. And I think that's just something we've consistently seen in John Jones, is when he fights guys who are like 6'5", closer to his height, then he struggles to keep them at distance and they're able to land more shots on him. And Jones just doesn't really have that one shot knockout power. And then when Reyes went up against a guy like Blachowicz, who does have that one-shot knockout power, Reyes just wasn't able to get off the volume that won him those rounds. And he was really forced to fight at Blachowicz's distance, and Blachowicz was just the better range kickboxer. And that was the story of that fight. Procházka, a lot more unconventional and interesting to talk about in his performance against Oezdemir. Very, very unique, interesting style. He crouches super low, keeps his hands right down there, and does a lot of, I don't even know what you call it, but like these parallel steps where he's going like right foot in front, left foot in front, right foot in front. And he's like tapping his chest as he does it, which lets him move and angle off in different ways. And then really leaves the head defense up to his reflexes, which he did a pretty effective job at against Volkan Oezdemir, who's one of the best first round finisher knockout artists in the division. So if that sort of keep your hands down and get your head out of the way works against no time, then it's probably going to work pretty well against a lot of people. What that style, the drawback of that style is it really leaves you defenseless against the leg kicks, because you're crouched so low. It's going to be hard to move out of the way. You're putting a lot of weight on them, so they're going to hurt more. And Reyes does use the leg kicks. You saw him throw a lot against Blachowicz. So that's the things I'm going to be looking for are, one, how does the power of Procházka, I mean, he is Eastern European, go more with the Jan Blachowicz Polish power? And is it going to keep Reyes similarly like cautious and afraid to push the pace and be constantly getting in there close? Because against Blachowicz, he couldn't. Every time he tried, he got tagged, and then he finally forced one when he was already hurt. And Blachowicz put him away pretty easily, and Procházka showed those kind of reflexes and that kind of power against Oezdemir. So stylistically, the finish is there for him. But if Reyes can fight a little smarter, use the leg kicks a lot, and kind of exploit the unorthodoxness in with like traditional orthodoxy, then you can see that being a pretty easy downfall by Procházka. But I love this fight. Just a a very unconventional fighter against a much more conventional one. Two guys who, like Prochazka, he counter strikes and pushes the pace at the same time almost because he's charging forward with his hands so low. He's like daring you to swing at him as he walks you forward. So in a way, he's counter striking because he's constantly dodging out of the way, but he's moving forward. So if you're not throwing at him, he's going to be throwing at you. And that's ultimately what won him the fight against Ustamir. So it should be a really interesting main event. There's